Hello and welcome once again to the video. Once again I'm going to be looking at a brief look at the career of a Formula One Grand Prix driver. This one from the past, not the present or the future. And this was a driver that I remember very well. Jean Alesi. The very exciting Jean Alesi, always a thrill watching him race. He drove by the seat of his pants, basically. Always on fire, always trying so hard, quite emotional. French driver, born on the 11th of June 1964. And wasn't he from maybe, no, I can't remember where in France he was from, actually. Anyway, 11th of June 1964. Great driver. He was one of those that if it started to rain in the race, he would try and stay on slicks. If there was one driver that tried to stay on slicks, it would be Jean Alesi. And often it would work. But not enough to win races. He always had so much bad luck. There were races that he would be leading, that he would retire from just a few laps before the end. In particular, the 1995 Italian Grand Prix, he was leading the Italian Grand Prix in a Ferrari. And he was leading and his car broke down 7 laps from the end. Devastation. There was also that time I remember where he had an accident. Didn't he have an accident with Berger or something? Fell off Berger's car and took out Alesi. Both Ferraris were wiped out, something like that. I seem to remember. Anyway, some of the stats I had to look up. Some of the stats I knew already. And one of the most important ones I most definitely knew was his first race. France, 1989, when he came fourth at the French Grand Prix in his very first Grand Prix. Now, the reason why Jean Alesi entered Formula One partway through the 89 season was because the Tyrrell team were taking on a new big title sponsor, and it was a cigarette company, and that company was a direct competitor to the personal sponsor that Michele Alboreto, Tyrrell's former Grand Prix winning driver, had. Michele Alboreto, runner-up to Prost in the 85 championship. But by 89 he was not the same driver really. And the team wanted the title sponsorship more so than they wanted Alboreto. So unfortunately Alboreto had to go. So the team thought, right, let's offer the drive to a temporary drive just to the end of the season to whoever is leading the Formula 3000 championship. And that happened to be Jean Alesi, just by a few points. So Jean Alesi got that race, and because he finished fourth, that was it. His Formula One career was virtually nailed on then, just from that one result. Fourth place. It was a fantastic performance. Jean Alesi was, of course, the Formula 3000 champion. Formula 3000, which then became GP2 in about 2005, and then became F2 a few years ago. And it used to be F2 before it was Formula 3000. But he was the champion also that year, 1989. Now let's write down some of his stats. Yeah, his first race, we've got that one down. So starts 201. Now, a very interesting stat is he only ever won one race. Should have won more, but for some reason it just never went for him. Just like with Nico Hülkenberg, who should be a multiple Grand Prix winner, but hasn't even finished on the podium. It's the same sort of phenomena. It's very strange. Alesi should have won a lot more races, especially in the Ferrari and the Benetton. But instead he just picked up loads and loads of podiums, yeah. Just had 2 pole positions. I'm surprised he only had 2 pole positions, actually. I didn't know that until I looked up these stats. Podiums, though. 2 poles, yeah. Podiums, 32. So many podiums, but no, only 1 win. And that win in Canada only came about through bad luck for Michael Schumacher. With about 10 laps to go, Schumacher had car problems. I forget what they were exactly, but it allowed... I don't think Schumacher retired. I think he came second, didn't he? But anyway, it allowed Alesi to come through and take that win. There were loads of other wins that escaped Alesi that he should have won on merit. But they got away from him for one reason or another. Car failures, that sort of thing. This one was one that he shouldn't have won, ironically, but he did. I'm glad he got 1 win. He should have got so many more, but at least he got 1. He was so well thought of at first. I mean, it tailed off after a while, after the years went by with no more wins. His reputation dipped, but it was so high initially. It was like Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton coming into Formula One. Let's look at his teams. So Tyrrell, 89 to 90. Ferrari, 91 to 95. Benetton, 96 to 97. Sauber, 98 to 99. Prost, 2000 to 2001. Just the last 5 races. There's a bit of an issue within the team, within the Prost team, during 2001, which meant that Heinz-Held Frentzen left the Jordan team, went to Prost, and Alesi went to Jordan halfway through the season. I don't think Alan Prost was too pleased with Alesi doing that, because they had a contract, but that's why there's a jump partway through the season. There was something happened. I don't want to speculate too much, but there was some kind of, maybe it was just a general falling out, I don't know. And because Jordan was leaving, because Heinz-Held Frentzen was leaving Jordan, it seemed like a natural swap. But I've also read that Prost wasn't too happy about that. Anyway, now Jean Alesi, funnily enough, was Alan Prost's teammate, of course, at Ferrari in 91, and then ended up racing for Team Prost after Prost had bought, in the late 90s, Prost bought the Ligier team. So that's probably the only time that's happened in Formula One history, where a driver has raced for a team where his team owner and boss is someone that used to be his own teammate a number of years beforehand. I made a mess of this, didn't I? That looks like an S, not a 5. And I haven't done well with that bracket, have I? Never mind. So, I've mentioned that. I have taken some notes. What else? Oh, yes, of course. 1990. He was then nailed on as a Tyrrell driver for 1990 after his performance in the latter half of 89, especially that 4th place in his first race. And I remember the first race was at, where was it? It was at Phoenix, wasn't it? Was it Phoenix? Yeah, Phoenix. For the US Grand Prix. And he was second. He was also second in Monaco that year. But that was pretty much all he managed, because he only scored 13 points, I remember, the whole season. 12 of them came from those 2 races. But that was the first race of 1990. And it was a strange race because, is this all in focus nicely? Because I remember Gerhard Berger was on pole and Pierluigi Martini was second in the Minardi, second on the grid in the Minardi. I mean, that's just bonkers. That's just... It would be like, at the moment, Haas locking out the front row in qualifying. It was just very, very strange. And actually, it'd be even more strange than that, because Minardi were very much seen as a back of the field team. In a way, they still exist, because Red Bull bought Minardi and turned it into what is now called AlphaTauri, their second team. Anyway, Martini raced for Minardi for years and years and years. And there he was, second on the grid in 1990. It's incredible. And Alesi and Senna, I think, were on the second row, maybe. But anyway, not long after the start, Alesi was leading. Incredible, in his Tyrrell. Fantastic. Holding off Ayrton Senna, arguably the best driver at the time, in arguably the best car at the time. And Senna managed to get past Alesi in those opening sort of 5 or 6 laps or something. He got past Alesi twice, only for Alesi to get back past him again. I think he got past him twice. Definitely once Alesi got back past him. But you need to, if you can, check out that video on YouTube or wherever, because that was a fantastic start to the season, not just to that particular race. And he went on to finish second in the Tyrrell, and then he finished second in Monaco as well. And there were other races where he could have done really well, but the car conked out. There was another race, where was it? Oh yeah, Monza. He could have finished, I think, third at Monza had he not retired. But anyway, he was immensely highly thought of, and it meant that come 1991, every team was knocking at his door. Apart from McLaren, because they were well set with their drivers. But he actually signed for Williams. Now, I remember at the time Williams wanting him, and him. How I remembered it was that he wanted, they wanted him first choice, but he wanted, being an emotional guy, he wanted to race for Ferrari, and I think he had Italian links as well in his family, and he wanted to race for Ferrari, so he signed for them instead, which was of course a big mistake, not signing for Williams, that would then dominate the championship in 1992. But in actual fact, what I found out was it's a bit more detailed than that. Alesi signed a contract with Williams, but then because Williams were messing about and wouldn't confirm the contract, because it's inferred they were waiting to see what Senna was going to do, and Senna always used to take ages to do his contracts, and they wanted to see if he was going to be available, and that sort of, I suppose, irked Alesi a little bit, so he jumped and went to Ferrari instead. I don't know which version of those stories is totally accurate, but Ferrari apparently had to pay Williams off because there was a contract, even though Williams had not solidified that. They would have then wanted Alesi, because they couldn't then get Senna. They then wanted Alesi, but couldn't then secure him, because by then he'd gone to Ferrari. And so they went to Mansell, who was actually their third choice, which I remember being irritated by at the time, that he wasn't first choice for Williams. But he was actually their third choice, Nigel Mansell, who would of course then do really well in the Williams, I think better than Alesi would have done, and possibly better than Senna would have done in the second half of 1991, and winning the championship in 1992. But anyway, the Ferrari that he raced for in 91 is probably my favourite Formula One car, the 643, I think it was called, the Ferrari 643, that Alesi and who was his teammate? Oh, Prost, of course, yeah, in 1991. Beautiful looking car, fantastic. Honestly, the Ferrari 643 from 1991, what a looker. Even better looking than the 89 and 90 Ferraris, and they were gorgeous. So it was a great looking car, but didn't really do a lot. And from then on, he had a number of seasons where he would pick up podiums and near wins. He nearly won the Italian Grand Prix in 1995 in a Ferrari, but he retired with 7 laps to go. There was a few other races where he retired whilst leading. He had his best season, I think, in 1997, or was it 96? One of his Benetton years was his best season. Finishing, I think, 3rd or 4th in the championship. 4th, I think, in the championship with about 50-odd points. But there was a lot of pressure on both Alesi and Berger because they were following on from Schumacher's championship winning years. And the Benetton wasn't up to scratch. It wasn't the same level as it had been during Schumacher's years. And Alesi and Berger were very much leaned on by the team, by Flavio Briatore and the team, to perform. And, you know, that got a little bit testy, basically. So in 98, he went to Sauber. A couple of years there. Again, just the odd points here and there. And again in Prost in 2000, he was sort of scoring 20 points a season, not really doing that much. I'm going to put down here Alesi, great in the wet. Boom. I'm also going to underline that as well, I think. Now he, what else? Yeah, so nothing really much happened in his last few years. I remember it was very much, you know, towards the back of the field, really. Unless I'm not surprised he didn't continue beyond 2001. His big chance was Ferrari up here, Ferrari and Benetton, but he joined Ferrari just as it went downhill in 91, and he joined Benetton just as it went downhill in 96. But they were still good cars, especially the Benetton. They were still good cars, but and he nearly won some races, but he didn't quite get the timing right. His big mistake was, of course, not staying with Williams in 91. He could have been world champion. Could have been world champion. But there you go. Nigel Mansell was world champion instead, which I'm happy about. He also took part in after he retired from racing, the Le Mans 24. I think his best finish there was 4th, I think, wasn't it? And IndyCar. Not particularly great finishes there. I think he was like 12th in the 2012 Indy 500, wasn't he? Something like that. But he was the oldest rookie to ever take part in a testing session for the Indy 500. At that stage, he was, how old was he? 48. 48. 48. He had more success at DTM, where he won 5 wins. 5 race wins in the early noughties after he finished in Formula One. His son is in F2 at the moment. Is he in F2? Alesi? I think he's in F2. But anyway, Jean Alesi, such an exciting driver. He came into F1. It wasn't until Hamilton came in that you saw a driver come in with the same power. You know, in fact, you could argue that the last 4 drivers that have come in with such a big bang have been Michael Schumacher, Jean Alesi, Lewis Hamilton, and Max Verstappen. Yes, other drivers are very good, Fernando Alonso, Lando Norris, etc., Mika Hakkinen, but they don't come in with a massive bang like those 4 drivers did. Although you could argue that maybe Max Verstappen didn't, because he was a little bit accident prone and not too impressive when he was at Toro Rosso. He came alive in 2016 in the Red Bull, didn't he? So you could argue that the actual big bang, there's only 3 of them since, say, 1991, and that's Michael Schumacher, Jean Alesi, Lewis Hamilton. But the point is, I put Jean Alesi into that group, you know. But things just didn't quite go his way. Shouldn't have turned down Williams in 91, and then he lost race wins through no fault of his own. Anyway, it's great when you see him in the pit lane these days for races, which we often do. See him on TV quite a lot. But there you go. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Apologies for the wobbly table. And if you'd like to subscribe, please do so. Please do so. I've still got hundreds of driver bios to do and team bios, and lots of other videos I do as well on different subjects. But yeah, if you'd like to subscribe or leave a comment or like the video, please do so. Once again, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the very next video. Until then, it's goodbye from me.